Hello and welcome to another interview for the Workplace Wellbeing Practitioners Forum. My name is Dr Judith Grant. I'm Director of Health and Wellbeing at Mace Group and I'm part of the team that have set up the Wellbeing Practitioner Group. So I'd like to welcome Becky Thoseby from, I was about to say the Department of Transport, from the Ministry of Justice.
Yes. Yeah.
And Becky is Head of Health and Wellbeing at the Ministry of Justice now and has agreed to answer a few questions for our practitioner forum on her career and well-being. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So we're going to get started. So I'm going to go through exactly the same questions we asked Carrie Cooper last time. And yeah, I'd really love to get your perspective. So what advice would you give to a new health and well-being practitioner beginning their career in the field?
So two pieces of advice, really both around the newness of this field. So it is a very new and emerging field, so don't put pressure on yourself to know all the answers right now, because actually nobody knows all the answers. We're all learning together, and that kind of is my second tip around networking. One of the things that I really love about working in wellbeing is that because we are all learning together, it's a really exciting new field. There's a real atmosphere of collaboration and mutual support. So I would encourage people really to tap into that, to do what we've done, get together and kind of share experiences and best practice.
And what are your top 3 tips for implementing a wellbeing strategy?
Well, my number one tip, I know you're going to love, make it data driven. So it's very much about delivering what the organisation needs, not what you think it needs. And particularly in an organisation like mine, which is very much not homogenous. We've got people who sit in a government department advising ministers and making policy, and we've got prison officers who are working in a prison. You cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach. So you need to make sure that you've got some really rich data that tells you what are the wellbeing issues facing your organisation and base your interventions on that. Secondly, then you need to ensure your interventions meet the organisation's state of maturity. So organisations are very much at different states of readiness when it comes to wellbeing. One of the things that I think is incredibly important in wellbeing is the line-manager relationship, and that will be at very different stages, even within, if you have a large organisation, within an organisation, that will be at different stages of maturity. So it's definitely around matching your interventions to what the organisation is ready for. And then the third thing is be brave. So often I see wellbeing strategies being around fixing the individual rather than fixing the organisation. So it's not about, wellbeing is not about encouraging people to make healthy lifestyle choices. It is about creating an organisation in which they feel that they can be themselves, they can speak up, that they have good quality work, that they are empowered to make decisions. You know, it's all those things. But that is quite a difficult message for some organisations, because you can't just point to it and say, oh look, we have yoga classes at lunchtime, we've got it sorted. So that's why I prefix that with be brave, because that's actually quite a difficult message to deliver.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, really 3 really good points there. Thank you. And do you have a recommended read for people? So maybe a book or journal that's helped you develop your skills or knowledge along the way.
So I've simultaneously loved and hated this question, because I love to read, and then you made me narrow it down to 1, which I actually haven't done. I've narrowed it down to 2. So this book, The Body Keeps the Score, I found this actually quite life-changing. It's around how the effects of trauma, emotional trauma, are carried in the body. And I used to kind of, when I would hear about people who'd experienced trauma, maybe through abuse or whatever, and they also had health problems, I would think, wow, that's really bad luck, because statistically, how likely is it that you would have both of those things? Actually, this book shows that it's because people have experienced trauma that they have health problems, and I found it transformative.
And I've not read it. You've just expanded my reading list already.
So Bessel van der Kolk is the author. The Body Keeps the Score.
Okay.
And then the second one, this is one I came to through my mindfulness and coaching practice, The Compassionate Mind by Paul Gilbert. This again kind of exploded some of the preconceptions that I had. It talks about how compassion is essential to us as living beings. It's not indulgence, it's not weakness. It kind of produces hormonal changes in the body when we give and receive compassion that are essential to our survival. And it's also kind of around tough love a bit. It's not compassionate to say yes to people all the time, let them have whatever they want. It's compassionate to do what is truly right for them. And it talks a bit about compassion in organisations, and now that's the drum I'm really banging in my own organisation. So Paul Gilbert is the author, The Compassionate Mind.
Fantastic. And it's worth saying the National Forum for Health and Wellbeing, which was set up by Carrie Cooper, which a number of organisations, about 40 organisations are members of, put together a toolkit with Public Health England called the Compassion Guide for Workplaces. So I'll share the link with everyone in the forum, because I think that's definitely worth a read as well.
Great.
And then in terms of what do you think are some of the biggest challenges for wellbeing practitioners?
Well, definitely data. It's incredibly difficult to get the right data on wellbeing, and particularly when it comes to measuring the effect of interventions, because we as practitioners are kind of caught between a cleft stick where we can use the data that we have available, so things like sickness absence, use of occupational health and EAP. We've got that data, but it doesn't really tell us much. But the stuff that we really need to know is much harder to get. So, how do people feel about being at work, and do they have a good relationship with their line manager? So that's a real challenge, measuring the effectiveness of our interventions. I think everyone knows how to do wellbeing, don't they? When I was a kind of wider HR practitioner, I really did feel that everyone knows how to do HR. Well, then when I got into wellbeing, everyone really does know how to do wellbeing. Oh, why don't you just give everyone a Fitbit? And I would constantly have people in the business kind of giving me these great ideas and thinking that I'd never thought of this stuff, and everyone knows how to do their job better than you do. So that's really difficult, especially with senior stakeholders, because actually they know how to do it. Now, I'm not going to tell the head of the prison service how to run the prison service, but people at that level feel that they can tell us how to do our jobs, and it's that easy. Why haven't you just sorted it out yet? And then kind of related to that is, this stuff, if done properly, it takes a long time. The pace of change is not quick. You're changing culture and behaviour, but senior stakeholders want quick results, and so it's kind of tempting to fall into that trap of, oh, actually, let's just give everyone a Fitbit, because then we can point to that and say, look, we've done it, rather than saying, well, actually, I'm changing the culture of this organisation, and I'm changing the way how leaders treat their people. But sorry, I haven't actually managed to do that in 3 months. So it's difficult to kind of temper that impatience.
And it's interesting, I think that links to your earlier point around the kind of the maturity of the organisation. And I think having the data in place to demonstrate the business benefits of wellbeing helps move you along that maturity curve, yet trying to get the business case together to collect the data is often really challenging. So it's not an easy process, is it? But once you've got the data, I think that does really, really help. So thank you. And finally, what are your big predictions for 2020, Becky?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit on this one, and I'm going to give you my hopes rather than my predictions. First of all, I would like to see a more diverse range of practitioners in the field. We've discussed before that people doing our jobs are mainly white women who went to university, and it kind of worries me that people are going to look at us and think, well, I'm not like that, so wellbeing is not for me. So I would definitely like to see a more diverse range of people coming into the practice. And then secondly, I'd like to see, in line with what we were saying earlier around organisational maturity, I'd like organisations to be understanding more that wellbeing is not about fixing the individual,
Yeah.
It's about fixing the system so that
Yeah.
the individual can thrive. So a greater level of organisational maturity around wellbeing.
Fantastic. 2 great hopes. I hope we get them to. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.